If our goal is to build that internal motivation and making those connections, how do we design with those goals in mind? Often we are given a task to create a curriculum or facilitate a training, and there is an organizational goal or an institutional goal. But if we are not designing for that internal motivation, there can often be a mismatch. So when I was starting to be a trainer in nonprofit organizations, I didn't know there was a field of instructional design. And there actually is. And so in many corporations, if we can pull down all of the points, there are departments that have the resources to do these steps of instructional design. And a very common model is called ADDIE, which stands for analysis, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. And it's kind of a linear process. So analysis starts with what is the need? What are the skills gaps? What are the key performance indicators? And from there, the design, what are the intended outcomes? And how do you get from point A to point B? The team invests in that phase and then goes to development, where it's responsive to what is the design that's been agreed to by all of the invested parties. And then it's implementation, evaluating, and continuing to learn. The drawback of this kind of traditional approach is that it's linear. And so by the time you've invested so much and you get to implementation, if there are things that need to be tweaked or are not working, or if the environment has changed, it can be really laborious to go back. So another approach to instructional design is more iterative. Um, it's the acronym Agile, which comes from software development, and is applied to project management. And I know there may be some people who are here today who are much more deeply rooted in these fields than I am personally. But I've learned a lot from understanding that a model like Agile, where you start with the A for alignment and having the invested parties be on the same page about the intended outcomes, invest time in preparation, in determining roles, clarifying roles, not duplicating efforts, and then put the bulk of the creative energy into iterating, developing, and implementing. So designing pieces, trying them out, shifting them, changing them, applying lessons learned to the next piece, and leveraging. So continually learning, documenting learnings from what's working, what's not working, and building in evaluation at every phase of the learning experience, and checking for understanding, checking for alignment. So we're going to share a handout that can help you apply these models to projects that you may need to work on. And we can go to the next slide. We will also be providing you with a handout on the levels of learning evaluation, which I'll talk about very briefly. And then some AI, artificial intelligence, generative prompts that can be helpful in learning design that we've used at MindOpen. And a shout out to Sharon, our tech host, who also has a podcast on AI for change makers and helpers. In learning evaluation, often the measure of success is, do people like it? And if we're really talking about learning and the learning zone that involves stretching and a little discomfort, but not so much discomfort that we tune out. We need to be satisfied and engaged with the learning experience, but that isn't a measure of, are we learning? So the Kirkpatrick model is a common model in adult learning to get to results. First level is reaction satisfaction. Did you like it? Sometimes it's called a smile sheet. Knowledge confidence is knowledge gain. So that might be pre-post tests, or it might be self-report of level of confidence. This is often where evaluation should stop for the learning experiences that we might be designing in the workplace, because we're set up to feel unsuccessful if the expectation is there's going to be like behavioral or organizational change simply from a time limited learning experience. But with investment, we can track what impact the learning experience might have on behavior and skills retention over time. And it might be that there's training being provided in addition to other interventions that are intended to bring about some change. And it takes analysis and thought to pinpoint what is it that you're evaluating. So we can go to step 4. That takes us to organizational results. When it's an organizational based learning experience, what is the purpose? What is the larger why? How does it track to the mission of the organization? And then finally, and this takes much more investment, what is the return on investment? What finances, what resources have been expended? And what is the value that's coming from that? Many of these are looked at in corporate environments and not so often in our nonprofit environments. And so the part of the purpose is for facilitators, trainers, anybody who is using learning in your job to advocate for being measured on the things that what you're doing can accomplish, not the things that you can't accomplish.